Judge Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you. You're doing a good job, and I appreciate that. One quick question, and then I want to get off to something else. The zero emissions vehicles, I asked same thing of the drug folks this morning. How does that align with the purposes of the IRS? I mean, of the FBI? Is that, those things run out of fuel, electric fuel, at about 300 miles an hour, after 300 miles. How does that help or does that hurt?
Well, of course, the whole country is to some extent moving in a direction towards more of these types of vehicles. The reason it's in our budget is quite simply because there's an executive order, and we're trying to follow the executive order. But I can assure you that my priority for our people is to make sure that the mission comes first. And so they're going to use whatever vehicles allow them to accomplish the mission. Over time, if we have to transition into different kinds of vehicles, we're going to, of course, follow the law and follow the executive order. But our priority is mission first, protecting the American people first, whether that's on the border, whether that's against the Chinese, whether it's any number of the other threats we've talked about here.
I wouldn't expect otherwise. I think they just didn't think through that executive order when it comes to law enforcement. At the first year of your conversation here, you talked about arrests and indictments and so forth. Not all indictments would end in an arrest, because you indict people that are not even in the country, all over the world. But on the arrests that you make, how many of those arrests are in jail, roughly, and how many of those arrests are out on bond? Because we have a real issue of the debate about cash bond right now in the country.
So I don't have the statistics for you here. I can tell you that on the problem that you're alluding to is something which is violent offenders ending up back out on the streets on bond is something that I hear about from chiefs and sheriffs constantly all over the country. And the only thing more frustrating to the hardworking men and women of law enforcement than arresting somebody who should have been behind bars in the first place is having to arrest the same guy over and over again.
Right.
And on the federal side, happily, we're less subject to some of the things that we've seen going on in communities around the country in terms of the impact on bail and bond and certain prosecution practices. So for the most part, under federal standards, federal magistrate judges were able to detain violent criminals relatively reliably. Again, I don't have the statistics for you, but the problem you're alluding to is a real one. It tends to be more in the state system, and I think that's part of why our budget request on violent crime becomes so important, because what I hear from chiefs and sheriffs all the time is that they need, precisely because of the problem you're bringing up, they need more of these cases taken federal because they feel like they can count on the bad guys staying locked up if they're taken federal.
Good answer. Thank you.